This video focuses on one area of content development in workplace writing: informative graphics. Unfortunately, graphic development is an area in which few experts get formal training. I can't make up for that in a short video. However, I can explain several basic principles for developing graphics designed to inform an audience in a written message. We'll consider the content of a report on outsourcing written by a consulting company we'll call ABC. The report offered data from a survey of enterprises that had outsourced recruiting new hires to another company instead of handling it themselves. ABC initially sent the report to one of their clients, Global Human Resource Services. No writer can succeed in developing the right content for their message without a clear understanding of its context. That means we need to consider the principles you've learned about purpose and audience analysis. Let's start with the side of the triangle connecting the writer to the message. That means the principles for identifying purpose. Overall, the report was primarily intended to inform the audience. ABC Consulting offered no specific recommendations in the report, although it did provide informative conclusions about the current state of the industry for recruitment process outsourcing. Let's continue thinking through the context of the consulting report by considering the side of the triangle connecting the audience to the message. That means the principles for analyzing audience readiness. As I mentioned, the original audience for this report was ABC's client. After an agreed-upon embargo of the survey results, the report was publicly available on the ABC website. That means representatives from other companies could also read it. Those readers might include other HR companies that handle outsourcing or other enterprises who are considering outsourcing their own recruitment process. The audience the writer wants to reach is made up mostly of experts on recruiting, but perhaps some who were less knowledgeable about outsourcing. Of course, none of these readers would already know the results of the survey because that information is new. That means the writer has to overcome some inability to accept the document's message by providing informative prose and graphics to build up the audience's knowledge. We'll delay discussing sensitivity until the video on developing persuasive prose. Finally, to complete our audience analysis, we'll consider the last side of the triangle, the one that connects the audience to the writer. Without more information, we can't sufficiently estimate value differences. Again, the writer needs to do this. In terms of power, there's likely little difference. On the one hand, the writer wants the audience to accept the findings in the report, especially the initial client. On the other hand, readers are free to interpret the report as they wish. There's no required action after the report. So, the more differences in distance between the writer and the audience, the more important it is to get input from representative audience members. What the writer knows is that the audience lacks some expertise, and informative graphics may be a key to increasing their readiness to accept the writer's message. Now we can move forward with developing that information. Take a minute now to read through this passage from the consulting report. The first principle involved in developing informative graphics is being strategic. This has two parts. First, writers need to choose between prose or graphics when informing their readers. What would meet the audience's needs best in this passage? Few people would prefer to read the detailed quantitative results in prose. Instead, the edition places those results within a table. The choice to use an informative graphic should be a strategic choice based on what the writer's purpose is and how they've analyzed their audience. The second part of being strategic involves selecting the type of graphic that best meets the writer's purpose and audience needs. What do you think about using a table for the passage we were considering? Is there a better graphic type? Different graphic types meet different audience needs. Tables allow readers to locate precise values. In some cases, that's critical. Think about looking up a tax rate in a table, for example. Is that kind of precision important in this case? Seems to me less critical for the readers than comparing values. I have a hard time imagining readers for this kind of message taking time to read every cell of the table. So, some other form of graphic would likely be more effective for comparing values. One simple option is a bar chart. Readers can now perceive the data more globally. with the difference in categorical values for each company shown in visual space. Again, the choice to select a bar chart should be strategic, based on what the writer's purpose is and what they think the audience needs. I've provided a link to Evergreen Data on the course website. They offer many resources, one of which is the free Chart Chooser infographic for any of you who need to choose visual means of displaying data. The second major principle for developing graphic content is designing the graphic to accurately and clearly convey a message. Ironically, it's important to use words carefully, to label units. Note that this bar chart has labels for both axes. The vertical is for the categorical variable providers, with a label for the specific provider at the left of each bar. And the horizontal is for the numeric variable rating. The writer has also provided a title above the graphic. There are many revisions possible to make this graphic even more successful. When you're representing quantitative variables, like in bar charts or line graphs, scale and proportion are critical. The general rule is to use 3 units to represent the horizontal axis and 2 units for the vertical. Does the bar chart here meet that standard? No, it doesn't. The visual scale here is rectangular with the greater space occupied by the vertical axis. This version of the bar chart is better designed. It presents the chart in conventional orientation with the numerical units for ratings as the vertical axis. While that's not absolutely necessary, this change helps implement the recommended scale. Note how spreading the axis results in less severe differences among the heights of the bars. The most critical consideration about scale is always to be consistent. Writers can easily mislead readers by using a different visual scale for similar data. The writer has made 2 other revisions that result in a more reader-friendly design. First, the title is now a claim or finding rather than a topic. A claim requires a verb, while a topic is expressed with a noun or noun phrase. Explicitly labeling the finding of most interest means the reader may note other conclusions are possible, but the writer has clearly denoted this finding as the most important one. The second revision the writer has made is to add a caption which provides an even fuller interpretation than the title. The writer also integrated the graphic into the written message by giving it a number. See, the caption now starts with figure 1. Now it can and should be mentioned by number in the prose, so readers know when they should look at it. Ironically, prose is critical in graphics. Writers need to provide labels for its parts, titles, captions, and prose integration. In sum, the bar chart here more accurately and clearly conveys a message to the reader of the ABC outsourcing report than the original prose paragraph, or the first graphic attempt using a table, or the second attempt to use a bar chart. Stephen Few, founder of a data visualization company called Perceptual Edge, suggests 4 major visual types for numeric values, each indicating positional value via bars, lines, points, or boxes. There are bar charts like the one I've shown on the previous slides, scatter plots, line graphs, and box plots, and many more. Stephanie Evergreen of Evergreen Data shows that visuals for displaying qualitative data can also be categorized into a few types. These include diagrams and timelines, and many more. There are links in your course materials to resources from both Stephen and Stephanie, because they can teach you in much detail about the very best practices for developing informative graphics. As a writer, you must be strategic about the informative graphics you use. If your message is important, then you'll have to make time to develop graphics for the right reason, using the best graphic type for your message and for your audience. In general, less technical audiences will find simpler graphics less intimidating and easier to interpret. For example, a non-expert reader may be more comfortable with a bar chart than, say, a box and whisker plot. You probably need specialized training to become a really decent designer of database graphics.